Hey, what's going on, guys? How are you? Hope you're having a good day. Let's get further down the rabbit hole in task organization. I'll probably have enough time for leadership, and I actually will focus on the medic, okay? And then we'll get into a tactical conversation about the long gunner and then everybody else coming to all. So I talked about this in the last video about task organization, the breakdown, but I'm going to talk specifically about leadership. So leadership is down selected, not based on position, not based on time in church, but based on overall tactical experience. One of the most, I think, impactful ways that you could affect an outcome is by using a subject matter expert experience, regardless of chains of command, hierarchies, how long somebody's been working for a company, for example. So if I'm in a corporate setting and I'm teaching Oracle, I used to do that. I used to teach the sales team at Oracle. I would go into a meeting and say, look, who here has the most sales experience? Somebody might raise their hand and say, I have 5 years of sales experience. Another guy might raise his hand and say, I have 10. And then you look at the executive who's in charge of the entire team, and they might say, I have 3. Because the executive might have diversified experience, but not specifically in sales. The specific objective of the task would be a project based on sales would need the SME. And that doesn't mean the leader is necessarily outcasted. That just means that the leader is willing to give authority to the person who's in charge, who has the most experience. The perfect example of this would be the ground force commander versus the tactical commander on the ground, right? The ground force commander might be in charge of 2 elements who are hitting 2 targets simultaneously. The assault force commanders or the tactical commanders will be in charge of their individual elements. So you could have, if you have enough guys, you could have a guy who's overall in charge, but the tactical element is in charge by a team leader or a person who's worried about shoot, move, communicate, or maneuvering, fire maneuvering of the players on the ground. Now, if you have enough guys, let's say you have a team of 10 guys. One person steps out, they're the leader, the overall leader. He has very specific roles that are acting as the ground force commander, right? 1 ground force commander, 2 assault force commanders or team leaders, as I described in the task org video last time, that they handle their individual movement and techniques. We used to have this problem with the FBI. Several times I've trained regional FBI SWAT teams. I did it in Colorado. And when I trained with them, we typically had, I was augmented. The FBI HRT team lead was helping training them, but then we were sitting back as observer controllers telling them what they're doing wrong or what they're doing right. The reason being is there's a tactical problem that's being handled. We're handling everything external. And the perfect example of this is in an assault that's conducted overseas. When you have an assault conducted overseas, let's say you do a raid, you're going to have a ground force commander on a radio talking SAT, might be co-located with a combat controller talking to aircraft. And the reason being is because there's a lot of assets, enablers, resources that are readily available that need to be communicated to, resourced, and utilized that's happening outside of the specific things that are going on in the house. As an assault force commander, I've been an assault force commander before. You don't have the time because you're dealing with a tactical problem set in the home or in the raid. So the best organization would be having an overall, and you guys could take the nomenclature. Let's see, ground force commander. Let's call it the church force commander, whatever the name. You're handling calls, for example, external to the situation. If you're in proximity, which you shouldn't be based on your duty and position, you shouldn't be in the tactical scenario. You should be enabling and supporting the men who are in the tactical scenario. Let me give you an example. I wouldn't put the church force commander, and I'm being facetious here, I'm being sarcastic. I wouldn't put the church force commander in the church. I would put him in the security room, right? Because if something happens, he needs to be the person to be able to call 911, to call the local sheriff point of contact, to coordinate with the specifics of what's going on, to communicate to dispatch what is going on play by play, to assist and facilitate the evacuation of the civilians out of the building. Why? Because all of the focus, all of the communication of the tactical element needs to be focused on the priority of work, which is the tactical problem set. That is going to be the active shooter, the fire, the person who crashed into the side of the building, the bomb that was initiated. So if you are organized and the most experienced person tactically happens to be the ground force or church force commander, you need to reorganize. You can't afford to debate this. I mean, because it's not about egos. It's about, okay, if I'm Mike and I have 20 years of special operations experience operating, but also leading. I was a sergeant, E7 team leader, a sniper team sergeant as an E8, and a company sergeant major as an E9. Well, obviously I have leadership experience and I could run and manage a tactical team. Mike might be a police officer who's a sergeant, not a one-year recruit. That doesn't count. You have to have tactical leadership experience. And the question is, who has the most? Who's the most competent and capable? Now, Chuck, who was a firefighter, because we don't have any police officers, was leading firefighters. Good enough. Because the alternative is Clyde, who works for Kinko's and has been managing an administrative team for Kinko's corporate. Not going to fly. Again, the most relevant tactical experience needs to be the assault force or tactical commander and team lead. So that would mean, and I've talked to several of you, that would mean, yeah, Mike, I am the church team lead for the security team. Okay, do you have any tactical experience? Well, no, but my team does. Okay, now you're the ground force commander, and whoever has the most tactical experience is the tactical team leader inside of the church, where the problem set will likely originate. If, for example, the leader, hey, I'm Mike, 20 years of special operations experience. I cannot be the church force commander. I need to be tactical commander. So I'm going to select the most organized and competent person with maybe has the least tactical experience and put them in a more technical and communicative role. Because I will tell you, if you have egos in this, you will fail. The first priority is worship. The second priority is worship safely. Okay. So if, for example, you have the administrative role and that person is frustrated, don't be frustrated. You actually have one of the most significant, important roles. Yeah. Will you be in a gunfight? Likely not. If you are, we've made mistakes. But you are the lifeline of the tactical element. So you might have a protocol to bug out of the back of the church as quickly as possible to keep safe so you could pick up the phone and call 911. Because that phone call to 911 is one of the most critical calls that could be made. And you know who's not going to be calling 911? People in the church who are being shot at, or tactical security members who are in a gunfight. So you could likely get the phone call out seconds, if not minutes, before everybody else, because that's your designated role and position. It's command, control, and coordination. Command, taking command of what's going on, giving your men the latitude to operate. control, understand the moving pieces and facilitating that movement. Like if you have a mass evacuation, your job might be able to jump out the window, to run to the back door, to open or unlock all the exits so they can get out. It doesn't mean you're not armed. It just means that you have a broader strategic role and coordination, calling 911, calling the SWAT team lead to give him specifics of what exactly is going on. So when his men arrive, you don't have to get the latency to talk to a dispatcher who doesn't know who you are. You don't even have time to explain that. You call 911, you get the call out, they get the ball rolling. You call the SWAT team lead to communicate what exactly is going on so his guys can be briefed on the way as they're getting guns out of the trunk of their vehicles, right? So that is an important delineation. And look, you can do what you want. It's just my best practice and advice. Let me give you an example of where it applied to me. I've been on many combat operations, obviously. On several operations, I've been put in charge because I had more experience. For example, in the CIA, when I was in GRS, I had more tactical experience than many of the men that I worked with. It just so happened that was my experience. At the time I went into GRS, I had 16 years of active duty time, over a decade in special operations, and at the time, 9 combat rotations. So I knew how to lead. I knew how to operate in high-risk environments. And so, for example, in mobility operations, they would say, Mike, what's your experience in mobility? XYZ. Okay, you're the dude in charge. Oh, I'm the new guy. This is my first rotation. Well, saddle up because now you're the guy in charge. Always down select the guys who have the most talent in this specific requirement. It doesn't matter about rank, tenure, how long you've been there. You're the pastor's son. None of that matters because when rubber meets the road, your skill sets and your capability is what's going to mean the most. Also in leadership, let's take the ground force commander, church force commander, step them out. The tactical lead, the tactical team lead, call it what you want. Assault force commander, we used to call it, tactical team leader, whatever, alpha team leader, whatever. One person needs to be in charge of the overall tactical element, even if it's coordinating multiple teams. Because that tactical team lead might be in the gunfight, but he's taking an overall snapshot of the big picture. For example, if we're maneuvering on the enemy, if we're advancing by individually moving teams, advancing towards the bad guys, I would have a team leader in between two teams, or a squad leader in this case, for all you infantrymen. A squad leader would be coordinating two teams, moving and advancing. It's important that his perspective is focused on the maneuvering element and not the tactical problem set. The reason that is because when he sees the big picture, he could facilitate the most efficient, optimized, and secure means of the tactical problem. Here's a perfect example. Let's say the shooter opens fire on the churchgoers, and then he runs into a back room. If every tactical member pursued the bad guy, well, that would defeat, one, your ability to tactically problem solve because you have too many guns in the fight. It's not, you have a lot of wasted barrels. You wouldn't see if there's a coordinated and potential flanking attack from a deliberate, multifaceted attack. For example, that dude who runs in the back room might have another person waiting outside to gun everybody down. And also, now you have a medical problem, a first aid problem, a mass casualty problem potentially. So if a tactical assault force commander team lead is sitting back and he sees this, he will say, Bravo team, send two of your guys to go get the bad guy. The rest of Bravo team, I want you to start working the casualties. Alpha team, I want you outside to create a corridor to move casualties safely away via our pre-planned emergency evacuation plan that everybody knows. We will have we were talking about this in the planning session, which is going to be the most interesting part of this. We'll talk about this in the planning session. You're going to have a black and gold contingency for rendezvousing churchgoers. You actually have north, south, east, and west. I'm going to create a color coordinated setup for you guys. Because if you said, I want all you guys in the front row to go north, what does that even mean? Do you have a compass on your watch? Do you have an azimuth? Or you have a compass inside your lensatic compass inside your pocket? Probably not. We have to make things simple, stupid. So that team lead can now sit back and maneuver specific elements based on his 10,000 foot perspective, while the overall commander, remember the ground force, church force commander, has a 30,000 foot perspective. He's in charge of everything outside of the church and command, control, and coordination. And the assault force commander is in charge of everything inside of the church. That's the best way to put it. Also, so as he's breaking up the units based on what he sees, he now has the big picture to coordinate with the ground force commander on the situation. Because the ground force commander is picking up the phone, calling 911, bugging out, getting away, maybe moving to a rendezvous point, running to his car, whatever it may be, calling 911, he needs to relay the communication directly to him. So in the combo plan, when you have two elements, the GFC and the assault force commander, the AFC, now you have very simple, efficient communications, and you don't have everybody picking up the radio in a panic. Because now the assault force commander sees everything that's happening. He can relay one message. Here's an example in that scenario. The active shooter opened up fire. He ran into a back room. I saw that happen. The assault force commander, he's got his gun out. He tells Bravo team to split the team, half to start working the casualties, half to start working the tactical problem. And Alpha team needs to go outside and create a corridor to start evacuating people. So they break out, they clear the outside because there might be another attacker in the parking lot. He might have another person waiting to ambush everybody. They clear out, create a corridor, start evacuating personnel as quickly as possible. As I'm sitting back and witnessing this, I will relay to the GFC. Roger, GFC, be advised, this is Assault Force Commander, break. We have three maneuvering elements. One element going after the shooter. He is locked down in the hallway in the second room on the left. Be advised, he is in Bravo room. We already had that pre-designated. Be advised, he is in Bravo room. They're working the problem set right now. It's still active as a scene. Break. I have three of Bravo team working with primary medic, the mass casualties. We have 4 casualties, all of them ambulatory with one killed, with one KIA. Break. Also be advised that we have Alpha team creating a corridor to, I'll give you this later, but I'm going to do it right now. Be advised, we have a corridor. Alpha's creating a corridor to the black side of the church. It's color coordinated. I'll explain it later. The black side of the church. Also be advised, they're beginning to evacuate now. We have about 10 people out with about 40 more to go. How copy? Roger, copy all. I'm relaying that to dispatch. Be advised, SWAT team lead just communicated with me. He's en route. They will be on scene. Stand by on comms to give me more information on the tactical problem set. I'm going to link up with him in the parking lot. If you're able, link up with me in the parking lot as well. Link up with me by the car. We could brief him in person. Roger, out. Okay, so that would be the common communication between the AFC and the GFC. You only want simplified tactical comms coming through one channel to the other channel. If you get everybody on the radio at the same time, even relaying things that are distance from the radio, you'll run into a lot of problems. Because the most important communication that's taking place is the communication of the situational awareness of what's happening in the tactical problem to the GFC, who's communicating it outwardly to the people who are showing up with guns. If they don't have any information, they're going to start moving in free-flowing CQB with guns, and that will not be a good problem for you guys to have. One of the best attributes of this is identifying that. Obviously, identifying friend from foe is a huge problem. You need to come up, and this is your own problem set. I'll give you a recommendation, but this needs to be classified or compartmentalized information amongst your security team. You need to have an identifying marker that identifies every single member of the team. That could be a orange beanie, a real thin beanie that's kept in your pocket. That could be an armband that is underneath your uniform where you rip away something. That could be a patch that is black. You rip it away, you flip it over, and it's orange. Whatever it is in between you and your security team. It is compartmentalized information and is only disseminated to those who are in the know. That makes sense? And I also can give you recommendations, but you need to down select your own method of identifying friend from foe. Also, it needs to be simple, stupid. You don't need to don a t-shirt. No, you don't need to unbutton a shirt to get to the orange shirt underneath. It takes too much time. It needs to be simple, effective, and seen. Simple, effective, and seen. Lastly, we're not going to get to I'm not going to short stroke any of this for you. So we're going to get into the medic component in the next video. Lastly, for the leadership, when you're controlling and maneuvering tactical elements and you're hunting the bad guy, you have to understand that the number one priority is the hostage rescue scenario you're in. It is not killing the bad guy. So here's an example, because I've been very critical of this. Uvalde. A very disturbing chain of events led an active shooting protocol to go stagnant and turn into a containment protocol that turned into a handover procedure that turned into finally kicking in the door by Border Patrol and realizing, by BORTAC specifically, realizing that there were many hostages, including some that were still alive. They had no idea. I've talked to the BORTAC team lead who actually was in charge of the team that went into that room. They had no idea. And so when you take a step back, the number one priority is hostages. So if a shooter opens up fire, in my same scenario, we'll go over many scenarios in course of action development. But if one shooter shoots up a place, creates injuries, casualties, and kills somebody, that based on my scenario, and runs into a room and is isolated in that room and there's nobody in that room, then containment and handover is the appropriate protocol. Because there's no need for you to waste your life or risk wasting your life when you're not preventing anybody else from getting killed, as long as you contain it. Guy runs into a Bible study room. There's nobody in there. You've confirmed there's nobody in there. If you haven't confirmed it, it's an active shooting scenario. But if they've gone into there and they've locked the door behind them, and you saw them go into the room by themselves, or you see it on CCTV camera, which you should thrive to have, well, then containment and handover to the SWAT team is the right protocol. Then the priority, you're still maintaining containment. You're not letting the barrels off that door. The priority is taking everybody else and maneuvering them to focus on getting everybody else evacuated. Evacuation is not a group of people sitting in a parking lot. The corridor could stop in the parking lot or name a cardinal direction. We're going to do colors. We're going to do red, white, blue, and black. This could be color coordinated, and you can go to a corridor and stop because it is safe. But if it's not, the corridor continues to flow until they are away with distance, time, and as many obstacles in between them. They're not getting in their car to drive away. If it's appropriate, they would, but likely you would gridlock them because the SWAT team's incoming. What you would do is move them on foot as far away as possible. You might even have established businesses, homes, neighborhoods, a Starbucks, whatever it is, you will have it designated because you will create a corridor, and that corridor path will create different rendezvous points along the way, right? So I want to make that clear because a lot of people would think, well, I'm going to take my whole team, 10 guys, and we're going to go hunt the bad guy. That is not your focus. Your number one priority is security and hostages. Security means tracking the bad guy down, where he's at. You know where he's at. You only need 2 people to do that, right? Those 2 people going to maneuver. Everybody else should be focused on getting these guys out of the back door, all the hostages. I want to make that very clear. In this specific instance, I am going to open it up to Q&A. All your questions about my tactical scenario, about leadership are valid. Ask them, and both on Patreon and my Signal Church group chats. And I'm also going to start adding these to YouTube on my stories channel. You could add them. I appreciate you guys. If you have anything, let me know, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.